Take 10. I'm sure I'll get it right this time. So, before I talked about the nigirigami, I should talk about why we use the nigirigami for training. The nigirigami are used to train the grip for hikite. Hikite is the withdrawing hand and is usually used synonymously with the chambering of the fists. But I think, especially in a modern sport context today, you need to be a little more discerning, although I think either way the principle is there. So the Hikite is traditionally linked to the downward block drills of someone grabs your wrist and you turn the hand up and you do your downward block, pulling the hand back and ripping the hand free. The pulling the hand back in the chamber weakens the grip, perhaps makes little spaces on the end or breaks the wrist so that it's easier to pull the hand free, and then the other hand knocks the hand away. And by using both hands in conjunction, it makes a stronger attack compared to if you just tried to hack at it with one hand. And you see that usually within the first month or so of traditional karate training. What they don't talk about is why someone would be grabbing your wrist in the first place. Sure, there are lots of answers in a grappling context, but in a traditional karate context, the reason is that they're using their hikite to try to grab you and pull you into a strike. That makes it much more important that you learn to block that grab and thus block the strike that's coming preemptively. And I think that while most don't train the hikite with that grab in mind, it is something that you traditionally find and should train. I would consider it a kihon, or a basic technique of karate. And there are several phrases or adages about using the hikite that way, such as when the fist moves out, it should never return empty, as in you should grab something. Or the fist should never return unaccompanied, or never return the hand unescorted. They're all just lyrics trying to teach you, if you punch, grab something and pull it back. Now that could be a wrist, that could be the sleeve, that could be collar of the shirt, or just any part of the traditional gi or clothing, or even the neck in some cases, ears, whatever. And you just want to grab it and pull it into your strike, or at worst, try to pull them off balance so that they are worried about regaining their balance, or if you do succeed in grabbing them, they're worried about getting their hand free so that you can attack them with your other hand, with relative impunity. They're going to have either an open spot because you've pulled their arm over and the ribs and the side of the face are open, or if you pull them off balance, they're trying to regain their balance, which usually leaves people relatively open. And that, I think, is a fundamental part of the hikite. And in order to have a good hikite, you have to have a good grip. And that's where the training of the nigirigami comes in. And I just want to say that, like the training with the nigirigami, there are Chinese equivalents for the hikite. Usually it is just called bao chuan, or full fist, kind of like baozi. It's a related thing. Many forms of southern martial arts and some northern forms of kung fu, they have larger openings of the hand or larger movements which end with a closed fist, and then they punch into it. Usually, there are, of course, other versions. Even Wing Chun, after every punch, the hand opens, rolls, and it can either stop at the side, roll all the way over to the other side, or just stop in front, close, and then pull in. Now, they don't accompany it with the strike, but of course you could. It's there. You could use it. And it's not limited to Wing Chun. There are other forms of chambering the fists, which I didn't cover in the chambering video, just because they're a little more exotic. Like in the southern Shaolin bear form, they hold their chambered hands like these. They call them bear paws. You just bring the hands in, almost like they're limp, but they're not really limp, and then you bring them under the armpits. Drunken boxing has a form where they bring the hand in open and then they palm across. And the idea is that if the hand is open, then you're grabbing. If it's closed, it's striking. And I'd say that's a stylistic thing, that's a lineage thing, that's how they teach their students. I don't think it's wrong, I think it just depends on, your mentality. They would say, oh, if it's open, you're grabbing. If it's not, you're not. I think anytime you see a hand pulling back to a chamber, there's probably some sort of grab there, some sort of grappling technique or something related to the Hikite. And, I've seen that with crane beaks pulling to the hip and then another crane beak coming out. You're pulling them into the crane beak. Also with tiger claws. I think, of course, there's also flank blocks, like I mentioned. It's not exclusively grab, but I think if you look at it in the context, you'll see some interesting either little joint locks or just pulling someone off balance and then you're striking at an exposed side. So I would say look at that in the sets, keep that in mind, and in your traditional karate training, keep in mind that that is something that's pretty much always supposed to be there. You're always supposed to grab into a strike pretty much every time you chamber. Things like the shuto, the knife hands. The hand would come out, grab, and then pull in, and you chop over the arm. And maybe they block that. That hand then grabs the blocking hand and then chops in over that arm. So it's meant to be successive chops over the arms with the other hand that's pulling to the heart, holding the opponent's hand, either because you grabbed it or because they tried to block and you took advantage. So I'd say keep that in mind, and I will show you a practical and traditional method of training the grip for the Hikite when I cover the Nigirigami. Until then, keep your teacups empty.